Everybody, welcome to the January 2022 meeting of the Houston County Historical Society. If you would please silence your phones, put them on vibration. When you sign in, please sign in. Make sure that you update your information so that you can get your minutes from the meeting appropriately. And we still are mailing some out. We need to cut that down as much as we can since postage has gone up. And as a note, the dues, as the Chamber of Commerce says, we're trying to get back on track for 2022. The dues are due now for 2022. They are $10 per household per year, or $50 per household for a lifetime membership. And you don't have to worry about paying every year. Are you receiving your minutes? Is there anyone that's not receiving their minutes?
Deborah, I need to say that we need to approve last month's minutes and this month's minutes because when I did the minutes, I realized we didn't approve them.
Okay. All right.
For the minutes for November and
Mr.
December.
Hagler, do you have an email address?
I put it on there.
You got it on there, so we've got you updated.
Yeah, mine's updated on that.
Okay. And as you change addresses or email addresses, if you will let one of us know, we can get that taken care of. If you did get your minutes, are there any corrections to the minutes that you noticed from last month or the month before? If there are no corrections, the minutes will stand approved. Treasurer's report from Leah.
For November and December, in November, we had just interest income. Same in December, interest income, and it's minor expenses, some postage. We did spend of the $100 donation that was given by Susan Knight Gore. We've spent $61.03. Jerry has found some good stuff, and we paid a stipend last month to Mr. Wooten. And so we have a balance in the money market of $3,190.22. And the CD's up to $11,356.45.
Are there any questions concerning the treasurer's report? If there are none, let's go on to unfinished business. We've had such a crazy past 2 years, I don't know what's unfinished and what's new. Exactly. If there's no unfinished business, then we'll jump to the new business. Donald and Jackie are working on a new project for us, if they would like to tell us about their needs for that project.
What we're doing is working on the World War II, and we want to do a program similar to World War I. So if y'all have any information on World War II vets, men, women in your family, or people that you know of that's tied to Houston County, we would like to have that. We're going to try and accumulate, if anybody has any military information on any of the individuals, if they'll give that to us, even if it's not World War II, we're going to try and accumulate that. What we'd like to see is just work through the different areas all the way up through that. So you get it, Deborah, myself, Leah, Melissa, any of us. If you've got some pictures, we can scan them and give them right back to you and the same day on that. So we just appreciate any information. Hopefully we can do it like we did the World War I program.
And they had about 400 for the World War I. Can you
Yep.
imagine how many they're going to have for World War II? It's going to be a very big project.
Yep.
We're going to need your help.
Yep.
Let's see. Melissa, can you give us an update of the archives?
Okay, I'll try and be brief. I'll first say that Vanetta brought us this for the archives. She contacted me today. This was found at the,
Yesterday's treasures today.
thank you, in Dixon. And it's the Ellis Mills Burial Association. It's a fan. Used to do fans back then. I don't think they do fans today. She told me that this started out as the Sparkman Burial Association, which was in Houston County. So this was probably right on the line, county line. So I want to thank Vanetta for bringing that to us. And then I brought some stuff over here too that we've gotten donated recently. Let's see, is Clint not here, Clint Reynolds? Okay. Clint Reynolds brought this to us. This was actually given to his father, A.E. Reynolds. And it was given to A.E. Reynolds from William C. Sexton, who was a retired riverboat ferryman. He said that this came off of the Danville Ferry before World War II and before the flood. And so it is pretty neat. So you're welcome to look at it. It's pretty sturdy, so if you look at it later, you can pick it up. And then this box here was, this box of stuff was donated by Lynn Ingram. She is a relative of Miss Laura and Lola Knight. If you don't know who Miss Laura and Lola Knight were, they were twins. They taught in Houston County for decades. They were a huge part of the Retired Teachers Association here. And these books are all school books. Some of them are library books dating to the 1930s and 40s from the Arlington School. And then some of these books are actual textbooks that belong to Laura and Lola Knight from the 19-teens. So many of these books are published in the 1800s. So very interesting. And then they sent us a whole envelope. Evidently they were in charge of the class reunion for the class of 1943 of Houston County. So this is a lot of the correspondence and stuff that had to do with those reunions that they held in the early 2000s. There's a few pictures in here. So we were very grateful that they brought this, and they said that they're still going through stuff, so they will probably bring us more. Let's see. I have this letter that came to the Historical Society from a Mr. Bill Knight in Clarksville, and I was actually asked to read it. He didn't ask for any information per se, but he did ask that if anyone in the Historical Society is related to the people he mentions, if you could get in contact with him. I have his mailing address and his phone number. I understand that he's in his 80s, and he is related to these people. He says Eugene Knight, which I believe is his father, was a class of, well, no, it wouldn't be his father. His name is Bill Knight. He's got Eugene Knight Jr., class of 51, here in High. My great-grandfather was N.H. Belcher. When President Jackson passed away, he helped lower President Jackson in the ground. My great-grandfather lived in West Nashville and was a carpenter. My grandmother said a man would hire her and another girl to plant corn by hand where the Centennial Park and Parthenon are at today. My great-grandmother was Ellen Parrish Belcher. She was born in Kentucky. They owned a farm in West Tennessee and would go by train each spring to check on the farm. People would be sick with the malaria fever. My great-grandmother said she would never cross the Tennessee River to live. In 1862, they rented a farm on Yellow Creek for 1 year. In 1863, they bought a farm on Half Pone Creek, the Silvertop community, 9 miles from Erin on Highway 231. It was 400 plus acres. This is where I'm going to list some names that he's wanting information on. At November 1881 term, the county court passed an order for the erection of a new courthouse, not to exceed $10,000. N.H. Belcher, J.M. Collier, J.W. Richardson, J.S. Lee, and S.H. Wilson were appointed as a building committee to superintend the letting of the contracts and the erection of the building. The courthouse was completed in 1882, and the total was about $7,000. The builder and architect was L.J. Neville. After my great-grandmother Ellen Parrish Belcher died, my father and his brother Alvin Knight bought the farm. After several years, they divided it. I have a brother, Bill Knight, and sisters are Roberta Knight Hall, Lavelle Knight Norfleet, and Joanne Knight. Lavelle, P.J. Norfleet, and Joanne Knight lived on the property. Roberta and Robert Hall have property on both sides of the highway on 231. Eugene Knight Sr. was born June 21st, 1875 in Houston County. N.H. Belcher is buried in the Belcher Knight Cemetery in Houston County. So if any of that is connected to you, or if you're interested at all, I have his contact information. And so please get with me, I'll be glad to give that to you. And that's all I have.
I almost omitted one of the most important parts. If Leah will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Leah. The McKinnon family would like to address the society. So, McKinnon family, the floor is yours.
Here, let me go back up.
In cleaning out Mom and Dad's house, we have come across a plethora. Because y'all know my dad kept everything. So we have come across everything from my grandmother's high school friends and pictures to everything that belonged to my grandmother, my grandfather, Mom and Dad, and then we have two right here that belong to Emily Jackson, who was married to Gus McKinnon. And they lived up on, as soon as you cross Cooley Ford Bridge, make that curve, there's up on a hill there was a house, and that's where they lived. Well, this was their coffee grinder, their coffee mill, and then this thing weighs a ton, it's cast iron, and my dad had always said it was a grinder, some kind of grinder, but there's no place for like, to grind meat or anything. And it has where you can bolt it down. So I started doing some research last week, and what it is, it's a tobacco shredder, which was new to me. So anyway, it's a tobacco shredder. So now I remember my dad talking about Emily would sit on the porch of that house, and she always smoked a corncob pipe. And Daddy said Pappy made them go down there all the time, and said we had to sit on that porch and listen to that old lady talk. And he said, but I can remember her talking about hearing the Civil War gun battles. Now, she was born in 1854 and lived, I think, till 1946. Good. So, so he said, he was 8, 9, 10 years old, and said that Pappy make them go down there on Sunday and sit there and visit. But he said all I wanted to do was play with my friends. So he said, now would I give anything to sit there and listen to what all she had to say. So anyway, these two items belong to her. And then there's some sheet music that's dated, I think, 1935, Come Back to Erin. There's probably grandmother's. There's some paperwork of my grandmother's in high school. There's Mom's 1947. She graduated in 1948. Her yearbook. I think the basketball picture, and some other things. My grandmother, Miss Eve, was president of the garden club, and they kept, scrapbooks of things. So, I mean, literally, my dad kept everything. Oh, and here's get that little broom thing out of that. That is from, what was his name? W.L. Carey Motor Company. And it's a little whisk broom, to kind of sweep out your car. So, anyway, we found that. But, anyway, so we wanted to officially offer this stuff to the Historical Society and Preservation for future generations to look and learn from. And then we also, on behalf of my mom, have a book of all her poems. There's 75 of them in here. And anyway, so we wanted to donate that. We've been going through and reading some. I mean, when with your parents, you see them as your parents, and when they write stuff, you can kind of see this little sense of humor and things that they might not have used with you. But anyway, so Mom had quite the sense of humor in a lot of these. And, you know, all these poems, for 9/10 of them, are written about probably a lot of people in this room or everybody that you know. If you had a birthday, or if you were president of this, or you were retiring from that, she wrote a poem about you. So anyway, we wanted to offer that too. So,
And this is just part of what we donated. We
Yeah.
had stuff from World War II that Daddy had.
yeah, I mean, there's, Donald gave me a list of 112 things, and I still have 3 tubs of things at home to go through. I have the books. Daddy had a lot of notebooks that were like this, that he'd written about New Hope Church, Little Church, World War II. I mean, he just had a bunch of books like that they have. The Capture of Fort Donaldson, Francis Green, History of Erin Church, and one even on class reunions. But, and he also had folders where he had done research for the historical markers and, you know, just all that stuff that he had put out countless hours into researching to make these things happen. But, and then he also had, we had a metal, that map thing. It was a metal case, it was about that long, and it was full of maps. I'm not even for sure what all was in there, I just kind of went here. So with that, but now, you know, and he gave me a list of what all he put down there. Land grants, land acquisition in 1940, maps of Houston County, and I mean, there's just a topo flowage map of McKinnon. So there are tons of old maps in there that he had too. So anyway, you know, if you guys want to, we just asked them to bring a little bit of this stuff to look around. Oh, and another thing, I don't know if we got it or not. In 1930, I found this really cool. In 1939, my dad was 12 years old. And he started a scrapbook. I mean, you know, cutting articles out, gluing them in a book of World War II. So, you know, that's when it kind of hadn't come to us yet. But anyway, he had I always started a scrapbook on World War II that he had written. So that was pretty cool to see that. So, anyway.
Oh, if he bought gas in Texarkana, Arkansas in 1968, and he wrote it down.
I found letters where he turned down jobs, where he declined. I found all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we have found all kinds of things.
Who was your mom and dad?
Bob and Betty McKinnon. I'm sorry, I just always,
I knew them real well.
yeah.
And their dad too, sure.
Yeah, Mr. Buren, yeah.
Miss Eve was a school teacher. She taught a lot of people.
Yeah, so anyway, it was, it's been kind of a labor of love, I guess, and I found, when you talk about, I found this the other day about war, if you want me to shut up, I will. I'll rather, or if y'all won't sit down. I found, my grandmother lived in Philadelphia, society, college educated, you know, lived in town in Philadelphia. And there's a guy that kept writing letters to her, and he gave her a lot of headshots that looked professionally shot, and he would sign them to Eva, my partner in crime in music and drama. So it was that kind of picture looking, I wish I brought it. So anyway, then evidently this guy gets shipped off in World War I. So he starts writing her. So one of the things he had written her was it came in a little paper packet, and it was a handkerchief inside, and on the back he wrote, "To Eva, I haven't heard from you. Hope everything's okay. You know, I'm in Paris. We haven't been sent to the big picture, I think he called it, yet, but things are starting to pick up," or something like that. So that was also about the time she met Pappy. She met Buren. So anyway, I've tried to do some research on this George Faulkner and to find out maybe if there's someone down the line with him. It's a slow go, but anyway, it's just really neat. I mean, he sent her this little handkerchief and this little embroidered flowery thing, and she kept it, you know, she kept these pictures of him, and he wrote on the back, you know, I haven't heard back from you.
Just in case BB didn't work out.
So anyway, it's been finding, you know, a lot of stuff like that, and I'm sure everybody that's cleaned out their parents' houses run across
She moved
stuff like
from
that.
Philadelphia to Erie.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a shock.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody here knows the story of Grandmother and Pappy, and if you have, I'll cut it down. But Pappy was stationed in Philadelphia during World War I during the Spanish flu. And Grandmother was in school up there, and she was getting her teaching degree, but they would have leave, and you know, they'd have dances. So all these college girls and stuff would go to these dances, and that's where she met Pappy. And so they corresponded back and forth, and Pappy even looked to moving to Philadelphia, but he just said that's not going to work. So she agreed to move down here. Had not been here. This is 1922. So her sorority sisters rode with her on a train to Cincinnati, I think. Left her, they went back, and she came down here. And my grandfather and his sister Louise and her husband, Everett Moore, they picked her up at Union Station in Nashville. Went from there directly to McKendree Methodist Church and got married. Because you know, Pappy had the house up here that they've always lived in, Leanne lives in now. Well, you didn't bring them home. I mean, they weren't married. So they went directly to McKendree Methodist Church and got married, and he brought her home here. Well, the house had outhouse. I mean, I'm sure y'all know what 1922 Erin looked like. And you know, it was dirt roads and probably open sewers and outhouses and stuff. Well, I don't think that lasted very long, because Aunt Betty was born, I think, in 23 or 4, and she said, oh no, I always remember a bathroom. I don't ever remember an outhouse, so I'm sure that once she got here, that they got some indoor plumbing. But anyway, so we found a lot of stuff on that Grandmother had, and found some interesting things, you know, about their lives too. So.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
As I help go through the McKinnon, everything from pantyhose to mounts to.
There was an old pair of little boxes. It wasn't pantyhose.
No,
They
it was,
were. You had to have the garter. Had to have the.
But it didn't come with that garter. It was.
No, no, it was just the hose, and I didn't even know if they make those anymore, so I threw them in there. And I did tell them, I said, you know, I've probably thrown some things, put some things in here you can throw away. But, you know, I can't throw it away, I can give it away, but it wasn't in us to throw away.
Well, we appreciate your contribution.
Yes.
Our times will keep it for us, and we will treasure that forever. Thank you. So,
How they so appropriate, we're part of the Historic Society. I don't think how much they were for the history and their family. So all we're doing is honoring something that's really happened.
Yeah,
thank you.
not till it gets old, though.
Whatever's young gets.
Well, we kind of got behind on some of our programs, and if you were here last month, we had a program and a meal. This time we have the McKinnon contribution, and we have Mayor Bridges. And he will come up and swear in our officers, and then we'll let you talk about the state of the county. We could have Melissa and Leah with me. Jerry Bobby, our vice president, was unable to. And he was- see what we- we'll give him I think you did this a couple of years ago. So,
You've been busy this
yeah,
week? I remember.
You look familiar.
Yes, you do too.
City cop told me the other day, got out of his league. I said, you've been pretty busy. He said, this,
Well, Debbie
makes it easy. All right, and I'm gonna apologize beforehand. I'm operating on about 4 hours sleep. I was in Nashville until after midnight last night, and I got up about 5 o'clock this morning, so, and it's been a very long day. But you guys, I tell it, I'm gonna have to brag on Melissa a little bit before we do this. I tell Melissa all the time, she has the absolute coolest job in the county. Every time I go down there, I always end up having to be retrieved by one of my other secretaries, but I want to just stay down there because she's got so much neat stuff in her office. Anyway, so what you guys do with the Historical Society and working with the archive, it is very important to me, it's very dear to me. My family has been in Houston County since, I think, long before Houston County was formed. So the history of this place means a lot to me, and what y'all do is very important. You have been elected by the Houston County Historical Society to serve as an officer of this organization for the year of 2022. To the best of your ability, will you promise to fulfill the duties of the office to which you've been elected, as those duties are presented in the bylaws of this organization? Respond by stating, I will.
I will. If we could have the board of directors up here. And maybe some of them missing.
Just got a shock to see him here after what I heard, and a little trip to the hospital. You guys have been elected by the Houston County Historical Society to serve on the board of directors for 2022. Will you promise to fulfill your responsibilities as a board member, attend meetings whenever possible, contribute your ideas and talents to fulfill the purpose of the Houston County Historical Society as laid out in the bylaws of this organization? Respond by stating, I will.
I will.
I want to thank y'all for allowing me to come and talk to y'all. I don't have anything near as interesting or as fun to discuss as the McKinnon family. But I will update you on some things that are going on in the county.
I'll try my best not to knock all this stuff over.
The few of us that straggled in kind of late just left a budget meeting where we were discussing the American Rescue Plan Act funds the county received. And there's a lot of things that we can do with this money. And the budget committee, my office, commissioners, everybody are working very diligently to make sure that that money goes to the best possible uses that will benefit the most county residents as possible. The state of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Water Division has earmarked right around $2.6 million for Houston County to work on drinking water, wastewater, stormwater projects. The state is really pushing that agenda, and they're pumping a lot of money into it. Of that 2.6 million, we have to come up with a match. It's only about 20%, so we're looking at about $400,000 that we have to come up with. And but we can turn that 400,000 into, by the time they take in the account the allocation for the county, each municipality within the counties of Tennessee Ridge and Erin have money earmarked from them. It's going to turn into about $4 million that we can use to work on water projects. And I know it's been in the paper. Everybody knows the issues that Erin had with water. They were losing a lot of water due to leaks. And they've slowed up a lot of that. They've done a lot of work and gotten things better. Looks to the future, I think, you know, one of the things that's gonna bring some growth and some new residents, new homes, will be a good supply of public drinking water out to the rural areas. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at using that money for. The sheriff has got a sewer project that we're looking at, that money can be used for as well. Keep the jail up and running. And we've tackled a lot of his issues, as hot water heaters and leaking roofs and things. So, but he's still got this sewer issue that's kind of a thorn in all of our side. Every once in a while it rears its ugly head. But overall, the county is doing really well. Our financial situation has improved greatly over the last 3 years. This year, we are struggling a little bit with our solid waste fund, just because of the cost of everything. Transportation of trash has gone up, fuel prices have gone up, everything's more expensive. So we do have some struggles with solid waste in our convenience center. They're gonna be coming up in the next couple of months. That I'll have to work with the solid waste committee. Does anybody have any specific questions about anything going on in the county that you'd like to ask or have me speak on?
Any updates on the hospital?
Oh yeah, I told you I was sleep deprived. The hospital is actually doing very well. I was up there last week and they were almost at capacity. They had 10/11 patients on the floor. They had one that was in the ER that was working on being admitted. And they were actually having to divert patients to other facilities because they didn't have room for them. The new hospital group that is managing our hospital and looking to take it over are tremendous. I would trust them with anybody. I've actually, a couple of weeks ago, I had an episode up there at a hospital board meeting and about passed out in the board meeting, and they wheeled me right to the emergency room, took great care of me. They're doing great. I can go up there now and sign checks to pay bills and not have to worry about if they're gonna clear the bank or not. They're sitting on, get all the bills paid and everything, and they got about $750,000 in the bank, which is unheard of. Before it was, we had to kind of pick through, this one was due last month, we better pay it now, kind of thing. But they're doing really good. The information that is required by the Attorney General to actually turn it over from a county-owned facility to a for-profit, privately owned facility is a pretty extensive packet of information. They've been working on that literally for probably about 9 months. The county turned over everything that they needed from us, and their attorneys are working on compiling all of that to turn it into the Attorney General. So we're hoping, I'm optimistic that in the next 60 to 90 days, this thing will be done. I may be overly optimistic, but definitely by the end of the fiscal year, I think it'll be done. They're doing great. There's no reason why the Attorney General wouldn't approve it, in my opinion, because the only other option would be to close it. If we've learned anything over the last year with them in operation up there, we had no idea what we had our hands on. I mean, we were holding a bag of rattlesnakes, and any one of them could have bit us at any time. We had no idea what we were doing. Had no business being in the hospital business. These folks know they know hospitals. They know how to run them. They're very good at what they do. They're operating, I believe, 4 other hospital systems in Tennessee right now. Any other questions?
I think, first I'm complimenting them when I say this. The due diligence and everything that y'all been through is protecting us and our health. I really compliment you. It hasn't been a journey that was pleasant. It hasn't been a journey that you planned for when you ran for office. It hasn't been a journey is unemployment. But healthcare is so important to us on our county. And I really commend the team that's working with it. And I actually asked myself the question, why would they want this? And the answer to the question is, they see it. There's another thing. They see it, and they think that's something that, it's a win-win situation.
So very fortunate for us. I tell people all the time, we did not find them. They reached out to us. They have people that were working in Washington DC. They could look at federal reports, federal documents, and they could pinpoint hospitals that were struggling just by the data they looked at. I mean, these people are, you talk about rocket scientists and stuff like that. These guys they're up there. I mean, I feel about this tall when I'm talking to them, because I won't say his name or anything, but one of the gentlemen is very involved. Reminds me every once in a while of exactly what I was wearing the day we met, and exactly what we talked about as we walked around the hospital. He's one of those that has an eidetic memory. When he sees something written on a piece of paper, he remembers it from then on. And to watch this man read a book, I mean, like looking at pictures. So we're in very capable hands with the folks that are operating our hospital. And I would take my mother up there, my granddaughter, anybody. I think we got just as good of doctors here as they've got at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's just got fancier equipment. Anything else? Well, you guys are eating. And just a side note, the McKinnons, I love Bob and Betty. There's not a day, I'll take that back. There are some days that I don't think about Bob and Betty when I drive by their house. But at least once a week, I drive by there and I think about visiting Bob. Before I became county mayor, I was a veteran service officer. And I did visit him on the front porch, talking to him and Betty. Beautiful, beautiful people. I absolutely love them. And I can guarantee you that I will probably buy 3 country hams every year at Christmas time to donate for the tree lighting ceremony. Just like I did this year. I started out with 1. The next year, Miss Betty said, now, James, last year you got 1. I think you can do 2 this year. She kept on me every year.
I'm not sure anybody told them no, but if they did,
She got me up to 3. And everybody reminds me, well, you did 3 last year. So every year when I write that check to Quakers for the last game, I will remember Betty and Bob. They're beautiful people. They were very dear to me. Thank you.
After you've thought about it a while, is there any questions that you have for the McKinnons or the mayor or?
I want to say something. I'm a newbie here, and you know that. But Betty McKinnon and Bobby McKinnon put their arm around Suzanne and it's been wonderful. And she was the most wonderful friend, and he was too. Betty, I mean, she yank a knot in me real quick. But it was, I mean, when I think about my 20-plus years here, and I've been coming here since fall and that, those 2 days have touched me. And she's a blessing, and the family's a blessing. Y'all are just great. You represent what everybody would want to have in a family. Everyone.
well, y'all got Leanne full-time now.
Is that good news?
Our next meeting will be February the 8th, Tuesday, February the 8th, show and tell. I chose show and tell because it's easy to cancel if there's a snow or COVID or something like that. I would like for the items that you bring for show and tell to be 100 years old. 150 would be perfect since we just did our sesquicentennial, but, or if you want to just go through some of this stuff and pick it up. But, February the 8th, show and tell. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.